I love hearing Renee Fleming's voice in any circumstance, but I'm just a little worried about the show part, because this is not really a show, but that's okay. Thanks for coming to the show. And thanks for being a good audience. Do you know what it means when the lights come down? You're instantly quiet. Good for you. Thank you so much. My name is Deborah Rutter. You're at the President's annual meeting, so I guess you might know who I am, but I just wanted to be formal and say welcome to the Terrace Theater, our 1-year anniversary of the beautiful, magnificent, fabulous Terrace Theater. We love it. I love all of the theaters in this building, but this one is kind of special. And it's just amazing because of the acoustics, because of the intimacy, and just because it's so beautiful. It's really a very special place. And all of our art forms perform here, so it doesn't mean I don't like all of the art forms. I still love you all, but it's a very special place, and we're happy to have you all here. Thank you for being here for this special occasion, and because I know I will forget at the end, I just really want to say thank you to the team who helped put this together, Catherine, Drew, Eileen, and Juven, my colleague. He really is special, and he's my special assistant. But they're like the core team who help put this together, think up what we're going to do. And I know I haven't thanked everybody appropriately yet, but thank you all back there. I appreciate your help. So here we are, and we have this occasion because it's really important for me to be able to spend time with you, reflect back a little bit on what we have done the past year, where your very welcome and appreciated contributions, either through your ticket purchases or your volunteer time, or certainly your contributions, where we have spent that, what we have done, and what we're thinking and what's about to come. So a little bit of everything here. It's a really special time of year where we're living in 3 seasons. It may feel like, well, actually, this morning it was winter, this afternoon it was, fall, and right now I'm not sure what we are. But this is an interesting time of year. We're 3 weeks into the fiscal year because we're a government building. So we're 3 weeks into the fiscal year because it was September 30. We are in the middle of this year. We've had all of our season openings. This week we open with ballet. We have all of the other stuff that's going on for the regular season. And we're in the throes of putting the final touches and the budget together for the 1920 season. So literally, we're living in 3 seasons. So it's always a little bit confusing what we're talking about. But tonight, I really want to do a little bit of last year and the season ahead, and to introduce a number of my really fantastic colleagues, some of whom you've met before and some of whom you're going to meet for the first time. So most important for me to do is to say thank you, because it is you, the people who know that when the lights go down, you get quiet because the show is about to start. You are the people that I sit next to in the theater, and you are the people I love hearing from, because you know us so well that you give us really constructive, valuable feedback, some of which we've heard before, but I need to hear it from you again, some of which we're hearing for the first time, and really is important for us to hear. So thank you very much. The other thing I want to say is that we are streaming this live, and it's going to be available on our website. So if you know people who would like to know more, or you really heard something and you want to go back, we'll be on the website. And so I'm going to say hi to Dad and Terry, who are watching from the West Coast tonight. Most importantly, I think for us all to remember that we benefit from this being our local performing arts center. This is the place we come because this is where our region goes to see shows. But we are also the National Cultural Center. And you, as part of the family, are really signed up to help us tell that story, that we have this important role to tell across the country, around the world, about the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts and its living memorial our National Cultural Center. So thank you when you do tell that story. It's one that I enjoy telling, and 2018 seems to be the year of frequent flyer miles for me, so I've been telling that story really around the world, and it's a joy to be able to share your home for the performing arts around the world. So let's look back at the season a little bit. And during this little sizzle reel, I want you to think about what your questions are. And if you haven't already submitted a question, you should have a card and something to write on. Let me know what you're thinking. You can either do it today, you can write to me, or otherwise. But we're going to have a sizzle reel look back at the 17-18 season quickly. It really is phenomenal what happens in this space, in these spaces. And you have no idea how hard it is actually to do that, because that's probably 10% of our programming or less. And but it gives you the breadth of it. It doesn't give you all the depth of it, because we couldn't get everything in here. We'd be here, for days. But it gives you a real sense of the variety and the scope of what we do here, and you're a part of it. But it's nice to see it in a reflection like that. Now, just a couple highlights, if I may, because we started with John Andrea, and that was his first full year as music director of the National Symphony Orchestra, and we were excited at his second performance as music director to open the season to announce that he will stay as music director to the 24-25 season. Can you believe that? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I know what I'm doing in 25, but the NSO knows what he's doing. And that's pretty great. Just today at lunch, somebody said, "Oh my gosh, you signed him again. We wanted to steal him for our orchestra." So he is one amazing, really, truly remarkable musician and human being. We're really lucky to have him here. Last year, one of the first things that we did was direct current. You saw Philip Glass playing the piano. I have known Philip Glass a really long time. I had never heard him play the piano, so good on you guys for programming that, Jamie and Robert. Direct current was something that we were taking a little bit of a risk. Those of you who know me and know anything about my history, you know I brought our first composer in residence here. Doing contemporary art and culture and having that immersion for those 2 weeks was something I really was thrilled that my colleagues embraced, and we had all the art forms participating. So our first ever direct current was a big success last spring, and so we're looking forward. You'll hear a little bit more about it from Robert. But everybody said to me when I moved here that this is a very conservative city and that nobody was really interested in learning about new things. And then I looked at all the programming and all the contemporary dance and all the new choreography and all the contemporary music that is commissioned and the opera initiative and all of the new stuff in all of the art forms that happen here. And we knew that direct current really could work. So thank you for the support for that program, and we look forward to hearing more about that for this coming season. The other thing that I just wanted to point out, you saw it at the very end, was this program that Renee Fleming really initiated with us, and it's in partnership with the National Institutes of Health. That's right, science, medicine, and the arts. Thank you very much. I did not plant her there. And in association with the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, it's been a fantastic program. And a few of us just spent the morning at the NIH last week. Was that only last week? And all of the people we met with 20 out of the 27 institutes because they're so excited about this work together. And what does it mean to partner in a performing arts organization together with a science health? But it's all about music and music in the brain and participation. So that's why we're all so smart here in this room, right? Because of our engagement, and it's been very exciting. We have a long future ahead of us in that way. It was also our first full year of hip hop. Now, hip hop had been coming to the center for quite a number of years, but it was here, there, and everywhere. It wasn't all the time. So we made the step, and as you know, we welcomed Q-Tip here exactly a year and a week ago. And we also hired our first director, Simone Eccleston. And the two of them have been doing a fantastic job. So it really has been, last year was an important year. Everybody says, what's the most exciting thing that happens in a year? And I have to tell you, it's really hard because the Cuba Festival last year was really spectacular. I have no favorites. It's really hard. Don't ask me what my most favorite thing to look forward to in this coming season, because it's really, really hard. Because every single night something really great is happening in this theater, in all of the theaters across the center. You know that, that's why you're here. So I want to tell you about a project that's not taking place here at the center or in our region. And it really has to do with us being the National Cultural Center. As you know, Yo-Yo Ma has been our artistic advisor at large for the last few years, and as his tenure with us comes to a close, we really wanted to spend this last year doing something that would stretch past Washington, D.C., and really think about how the arts across America are really powerful in bringing communities together. So after long discussions with David Rubenstein and Yo-Yo, and of course my colleagues here, we launched a pilot program where we would visit everyday cities across the country, not the big mega arts communities, but the ordinary communities that look to the arts to build connection, to help economic survival in some cases, to help bring people together. So we designed this program of Arts Across America. We've been to 4 communities. We're going to do a 5th really soon. which you'll hear more about. But most importantly, it was about us going to those communities to celebrate them and to shine a light on the work that they're doing in their community. We brought musicians. Yo-Yo, of course, was there. We had town hall conversations. We had elected officials who participated to say thank you and to recognize that the National Cultural Center was coming to their town to celebrate what they are doing. So our first one was Corona, California. Then we went to Broward County in the neighborhoods around Fort Lauderdale, the big central part that we know, but there are these other color neighborhoods of Broward County that have really done remarkable work. Then we went to Braddock, Pennsylvania, and then we went to Warren and Youngstown, Ohio. If you have a place that you'd like to recommend where the arts have come together and done something really important in a community, you can write that down on a piece of paper too. So we have a beautiful video here to tell you a little bit more about Arts Across America. And I just really want to give a shout out to my team because they all stepped forward to say, sure, we'll do this. We're going to test it. We'll see what happens. And Kathy Fletcher, who runs our Turnaround Arts program, is the community organizer who really stepped forward and said, let's figure out how to do this. Let me give you a little bit of the beauty of what that program is. We really have a mandate to represent all of America and to celebrate all of the arts of America. And I really mean and believe that Arts Across America is there for all people, representing all arts. It was time for us to go out to all of the country, not to the big cities, but to the places where great art is taking place.
You know, we're so polarized as a society today, you know, in politics and just about everything in life. And so whatever your philosophy may be, the arts are something that people can look at it or listen to it or be a part of it and come together.
What do you think music does? It creates community. If you sing gospel, what does that do? It takes you to a particular place and everybody knows that it's taking you there.
The arts, I believe, are a public health tool for deeply underserved people, for people who are in pain, for all of us. The arts are not just a form of entertainment. They are quite literally our lifeline so that we can be exactly how we need to be in this moment.
By your either singing it or holding it in your ear, it took all of you to drive this piece to its great conclusion. So give yourselves a great hand. Thank you so much.
This is a really moving program, I have to tell you, and our goal is to go to all 50 states as well as DC and Puerto Rico before our 50th anniversary. That's really bold. But I have to tell you, it's really wonderful because we already are in almost every state with one program or another, mostly through our education programs, and we really felt like we wanted to celebrate in a way in addition to our education programs, and in some cases go to places that nobody's ever heard of before. So thank you. I hope you go on this journey with us, and you'll hear more about that in the future. Okay, the really exciting part now is I get to talk to you about the finances. All of our favorite topics. Okay, so you will recall from those of you who were here last year that we do this at a very high level. If you are interested in more in-depth information, we will always share it with you, and our audit is always available to anybody who's really interested in it. We just started the audit for the fiscal 18, and it won't be done until January. But you can see the 17 if you like. But at this meeting, we only do it at the high level. Click. Okay, so revenue. Last year's final is on the left, FY17. And you'll see that the blue is earned revenue. Earned revenue, just to remind you, is ticket sales, rental from other users, concessions, parking, the gift shop, all that kind of stuff, or touring for the NSO, for instance. That would all be under earned revenue. The gold is contributed revenue. Those are primarily individuals, thank you again, foundations and corporations. And then the gray we'd like to include here to remind you that, in fact, the entity that supports this building so significantly is the federal government. They make an appropriation each year to support the operations of the building. We receive very little funding from the federal government for programming other than the education programs that you'll hear about shortly. So this money is spent to maintain these buildings, this structure, because it's the memorial to John F. Kennedy. And we have a very close relationship with Congress and the Office of Management and Budget. And they know everything that happens in this building. They come, they attend regularly, and we have a very open, transparent relationship about it. So these revenues come in, and you'll see on the next slide. Actually, sorry, can you go back? I did want to acknowledge and recognize the fact that revenues, earned revenues, increased from last year to this year quite significantly. And you will note that fundraising was a smaller piece of that, but that's also because we're in the process of also still raising money for the capital campaign. So the different and the needs are still there. I would tell you that this $80 to $84 million is about what we need every year. Thank you, did I say thank you? To support the operations here at the center. That big bump has to do with the fact that we are doing more here. Our theater programming, not just Hamilton, but all of our theater programming has grown. I hope you're all gonna go see Little Shop of Horrors this week, and you'll hear more about the Broadway Center Stage and other programming that we have this year in just a little bit when Robert comes to the stage. And of course, revenues, because we had such an extended run of Hamilton in there as well. Now we can go to the next slide, and you'll see that in parallel, we spent more money on programming this year than we did last year. We have more money spent on auxiliary services and general administration. And I will tell you that the reason is because in our building, we put things like marketing and ushers and parking staff and all that kind of stuff under auxiliary and general administration. So when you have more programs, you have more expense that goes along with it. So it's not that we just blew up the general administration. So in fact, on a percentage basis, we spent less this year on G&A than we have in the past, even though there's a correlation exactly to the number of people who are here in the building. So you can see that money in, and we spend a lot of money paying for artists, paying for productions, the stage crew, and all those things that go along with it. You'd be happy to know that we balanced the budget this year. It's actually a mandate for a whole variety of different reasons. Let me tell you that landing on zero, many of you are involved with nonprofit organizations, and you know that landing on a balanced budget to the penny is hard to do in any size budget, but particularly one that's as large as this, it's difficult. But loyal patronage, you coming through the front door with tickets, you coming to events, you making a contribution really makes a big difference. That I will also tell you that we actually sold more tickets and had more people in seats. I love talking about this capacity utilization, although I think I'm doing the very traditional thing that all executives do, which is extend it a little bit, because I've been saying that capacity utilization was 84%, it was 82%, but that's really, really good. And when you think about what it takes to reach those high numbers, ask anybody in the airline industry and they'll tell you that having that kind of capacity utilization is really important. And the last piece of it actually also is the fact that we added $3.7 million to our endowment. Now, for those of you who have been here at least twice, 3 or 4 times, you will know that Deborah will always ring this bell, which is our endowment needs to be larger. We have about $105, $108 million in our endowment. It should probably be 300 plus. So my legacy is that we're going to get that number up. And so for those of you who are really passionate about your art form and love this place, remember us. Remember us forever into the future, because this money goes into our endowment. It's there. We take 4.5% only to support operations in any given year. And the legacy is really, really incredible. So I just want to say thank you. And if you have questions that percolate, please don't hesitate to ask me later. And I'm going to move my notes forward. Excuse me just a moment. So the other piece of the financing that happens over the course of these years is the fundraising that it takes to build our extension. Now, next year, we're going to have this meeting in a new location. You'll be having amongst the very first experiences in the Reach, and it's going to be perfect for only this number of people in that space, but it's going to be really, really exciting. Now, we have raised $181 million and a few extra millions on top of that, but they haven't signed the pledge form yet, on our way to $250 million. And David Rubenstein has been so generous, but he's even more generous with his time. And he and our campaign chair, Michael Nydorf, have been literally crisscrossing the country, helping us raise money for it. And we've actually even got some international gifts that have been so important for us to be raising this. It's pretty spectacular. We will be having tours in the spring. It's a little bit of a mess for large groups of people down there right at the moment, but we will be in touch with you, and we will be inviting you to take a tour so you can have a sneak preview of it after the new year. Our team has done a really fantastic job, and you're going to be hearing about this shortly. Yeah, there are the construction. I'm not good at looking here and there at the same time. Construction pictures. And as soon as you're ready, I'm going to cue the video fly-through. There you go. So this is a really cool thing. I'm so happy I don't have to listen to the wallpaper music because I've heard it about a zillion times. Here we are looking at the site. I'm going to give you a little bit of running commentary. We're flying into the main entry of the Welcome Pavilion. You will remember there are 3 pavilions above ground. All of them are connected. And look at how big, beautiful, and lots of light. And from this space, you can actually see all of the spaces except for the River Pavilion. There's the entry up to the South Plaza. There's the entry into the A-level garage. We're walking up the gallery and into the Skylight Pavilion. Look at that space. 1 year from now, we're going to have a meeting in there. Looks out across the river. And we're going down this really cool area where you can see into all 3 of the studios at the same time. And everything that you can see, you will be able to see. Those are all windows. So each one of these studios has filled with windows, either to the natural light or to the interior light, and you can look in and see the artists doing their work. You can see just a little bit into the big studio. We're coming down those stairs, and we're going to go into Studio K, which is set up for acoustics. So we're going to have music, comedy, chamber music, opera in the round, who knows. Coming out into this big, beautiful lounge, people gathering area, and there are 2 classrooms. You'll only see one, but this is a classroom that you can see is set up for long-distance learning as well as local. It's all decked out as you would need for a classroom. Big open space for receptions and gathering before performances or after performances. We're going into the forum here, which you can see is the only space that has seating, 150 seats. You'll be able to do, as you can see, film, symposiums. Again, the crinkled concrete on either side is for acoustic purposes, and now we're back into the welcome lobby where we started. Now you can see into the PT 109 room and our innovation lab, which is a maker space where you get to participate. It shows kids, but it's going to be for people of all ages. We go outside, and it's suddenly night. Into this beautiful landscape, grass. We don't have very much of that around here. But look at these spaces. Look at how easy it is to gather. Now, some of you may be seeing the trees that we just put in. And this is the River Pavilion. Very casual, informal. I'm convinced that we're going to have late night karaoke there. There's food there and food in the welcome lobby, as well as a full kitchen. Look at the connection to Rock Creek Parkway and to the Potomac, and there is our beautiful video wall for programming outside. I'm telling you, is that beautiful or what? So we are on track. We have great partners. We're on track. We will take possession in the early summer, and we will spend the summer figuring out how to operate the place, because nobody's operated anything like this before. Things are going really well. But we are at the phase where we're making all those really important decisions. And when you go down there at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, there are 200 or 300 people working to bring us into a great place. So they're doing the interior work. Some of you can see that the landscape is beginning to go in. You can see where the reflecting pool and all of that will be. We really look forward to bringing you to it. It will open right after Labor Day next year. So don't go on some early fall trip. I can't. None of my staff can go away until later, so you can't either. You have to be here for a big celebration to open the Reach early next fall. So what I really want to do is, I should say, if you were to say what's the most important thing you're going to do over the course of this next year, I will say 365 days of fantastic programming, and we all are going to be thinking about how do we open the Reach. We've created a new position here at the center, and it's called Vice President of Campus Planning. And it means how do we coordinate everything that takes place in this building and integrate it with the new expansion so that we are one big place, that you never feel like we're here or we're there, but we're one big place. And so Melvin Gerald, you'll meet him. He's a key member of our staff, and he just came to us from the convention center, so they know how to do this kind of stuff. But more importantly, I will tell you that for more than 4 years, my colleagues and I have been thinking about what this would be like. And so opening it with all of the appropriate ways that we can welcome community, welcome you, our family, and to make a big statement about the role of the arts in our community and the role of artists and audience members and art in our community is really important. One of my key colleagues in doing all of that thinking and talking has been somebody who has a specialty within this institution, but who has expanded, that's a good word for us in this case, her footprint, and has been really leading our team thinking about what does it mean and what is our programming going to be like in the Reach. And so I'd like to introduce you to Meg Booth, Director of Dance Programming at the Kennedy Center, and she's going to talk to you about the Reach. Meg.
Hello, and thank you, Deborah. And yes, we are thinking about late night karaoke in the River Pavilion. It has been a terrific adventure working with my colleagues across the center for the last couple of years on planning and activating the Reach. We are so fortunate here at the Kennedy Center that we are a truly living memorial. Through the performing arts, we breathe life into a legacy that is marked by courage, freedom, justice, service, and gratitude. We are spoiled, having 9 different and largely formal spaces here at the Kennedy Center, from the Opera House and the Concert Hall to the Family Theater and the Millennium Stage. And although we do have rehearsal rooms and studios that are tucked behind these large walls far away from the public view, we've never really had enough space to allow our artists room to incubate, to collaborate, to interact freely and casually with all of the visitors that come to the Kennedy Center regularly. So, from my perspective, the most exciting thing about the Reach is that we're going to be able to break down this proscenium and the barriers that separate the audiences from the art. It will provide us with an open stage, 9, as you saw in the film, completely different intimate spaces, gorgeous spaces that will allow us to lean into immersive learning, artistic incubation, and dynamic collaboration between artists and public. We have talked a little bit about how artists and public will collide, and although we will not be doing contact improvisation with our audiences, I am sure you will be able to see contact improvisation being practiced in the studio through those windows. So the Reach is going to provide us open access to living theater as artists work throughout this gorgeous sun-drenched space. So here are some of the ideas that we have been developing in the specific spaces in the Reach. In the Learning Lab, we're planning to dedicate that space to arts education so that we can provide guided hands-on arts experiences for groups, for families, and for lifelong learners of the arts like yourselves. We will launch a recurring club-style performance series within the largest studio of the Reach, where you can grab a drink, grab a friend, sit on a couch, sit on a high-top table, and experience the arts in a much more immersive environment. 2 additional beautiful studios, rehearsal rooms, with those beautiful public viewing windows will provide both working or performance space for rehearsals, readings, auditions, new work incubation and development, summer camps, workshops, and intimate showings. We've got 2 additional classrooms on the lower level and a forum-style hall, which will support expanded education activities like lectures, seminars, pre-professional development, conferences, and film screenings. Our River Pavilion Cafe will provide much more convenient access and opportunities for socializing before performances, after performances, and in many cases in the Reach, during performances, which we're excited about. And as you can see, the outside is so green. Our green space includes lawns, walking paths, a renovated plaza, the outdoor film screening, where we will activate all of this space with festivals, simulcasts, outdoor film screenings, performances, as well as art installations sprinkled throughout the landscape. You may or may not know that the DMV area does not have enough studio space to support all of the working artists here within DC. So one other thing that we are designing is a program which will provide access to local artists and organizations so that they might have an opportunity to work in this glorious space as well. So I understand we might have some folks in the audience from the Kennedy Center who have little slips of paper, or they may have passed them out to you already. We would love to talk to you more, and so if you come to the reception afterwards, we're happy to answer questions. If you have those slips of paper, please write them down. We would love to hear more of your questions and answer them as we approach this final year before opening the Reach. And at this point, I'd love to kick it off to my colleague, Kevin Galinto, who is backstage right now, but I'll just draw your attention to those beautiful curves of the Reach, and he will talk about how we are integrating that into our new logo and the Kennedy Center brand. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Galinto. I'm Senior Vice President for Marketing here at the Kennedy Center. And as you've been seeing all day, we have a new brand at the Kennedy Center. What I want to do is talk with you about its evolution, where it comes from, and how we're activating it throughout the region and all of the spaces where it will reside. So I'm sure you're all familiar with our original logo, which has been around since 1971, and it is a profile of this building, the Center building, with obviously the reference to the Potomac underneath. And as you can imagine, while it definitely had its impact and was very important, it doesn't necessarily fit physically into modern digital spaces. But more importantly, what is different is that we're no longer that single building. As Deborah and Meg both pointed out, and you've seen, we're now a campus with a collection of spaces that go beyond just this physical presence. But in addition, more than just the physical change, there's programmatic changes taking shape. There are more genres, as Deborah talked about. There are more performances and many, many artists that are crossing our stages for the first time. So it's important that we find a mark that represents all of that, and that is what the endeavor was all about. So we asked a lot of patrons, some of you perhaps, what they thought a logo for the Kennedy Center should be. And just to sum it up, they felt it should capture the art inside, capture the building, but in an abstract way, make it timeless, very importantly, make it DC-worthy, being in the nation's capital, show forward movement, new ideas, symbolize a home for the performing arts, keep it simple, not complicated, but recognizable, and finally, balance the traditional and the modern. And I can tell you that's a lot to do in a single image. But I feel like we got there. And so you've already seen the new logo for the Kennedy Center, and I'm going to show you where it came from. So balancing the tradition and the modern and actually capturing the building in an abstract way, the shape on the left references the Center building, the original Kennedy Center building, and its rectangular shape, but also looking at it from a different perspective, if you will, as opposed to a flat profile. So kind of taking it into a different perspective, showing forward movement. And the image on the right, as you can imagine, specifically references the Stephen Hall designed reach and its unique curves. The negative space in between is actually a reference to the pillars, the iconic pillars of this building, and all together make up the building in an abstract way, balancing the tradition and the modern. But more than just the physical, we feel like it really does show performance, it really does show forward movement. We feel like it is itself DC-worthy and very much in reference to the monuments in this town, to the great presidents, us being a memorial to the 35th President, John F. Kennedy. We feel it really does hit on all of that. Now, something else that was really important in this whole effort, you see a collection of logos that have been around the Kennedy Center for quite some time. Some that are new, that came to us when they became part of the Kennedy Center family. Some that were actually programs created here at the center. But as a result, we had sort of a splintering of our own brand, which takes away from the impact and the recognition of the many, many things and the many, many ways that the Kennedy Center impacts people here and around the country. Now, obviously, I'm not looking to change the Target logo or Capital One logo. So if you ignore that bottom line, all of those other logos were part of our family. And by unifying it and using this new image as the anchor that brings it all together and gives that recognition of being part of the Kennedy Center and central to the Kennedy Center, but also using a family of fonts that make it all work together so that it is all coming from the same place and the same brand and the same visual identity. You also see the very, very important lockups with the National Symphony Orchestra and the Washington National Opera that are part and central to our family, and it ties them very strongly to the Kennedy Center while giving them the prominence that they deserve. We have been literally rolling out the new brand and a campaign there on wheels. And we've had an outdoor campaign. You see some bus sides, you've seen probably some metro shelters, you see some digital. And the point is not necessarily to say, here's our new brand. But the point is to really talk about who we are as an institution. We are about world-class art, we're about powerful education programs, and we are about the memorial to John F. Kennedy. And there's really never been a campaign where we talk about these things of who we are. And what we're able to do with this brand is actually use the iconic image to call out visually what these things represent, but bring us home to who we are institutionally. And here are some examples where you see the Washington National Opera, the NSO, the National Symphony Orchestra built into that campaign as well. And these have been running for a couple of months now as we went into the new season and began to launch it, which works in tandem with other marketing we're doing to get people to come to performances, obviously. So how else are we activating this? You'll start to see our ads changing in newsprint, where we might use the graphic very boldly as a top image, calling out one program while we have a list, a calendar of events below it. You might see an ad, and you've probably seen many ads, where we have multiple different types of programs within the same ad space, which is very efficient for us, but we weren't really connecting them visually, and this is a way for us to do that, even if they're in different genres. And even if they're in separate ads, we want them to all feel like they're coming from the same family. You'll start to see a very, very consistent call to action so people know how to get a hold of us. And you'll start to see interesting ways where that shape can't be central to every single ad that we do, but you'll see references to them where we're using them as a graphic element to frame the actual programs that we are marketing. You'll see our digital change as well. On the left, you see some emails from us. On the right, you see some digital ads. And in those examples, it is important to note that we have a lot of programs here that have invested in their own brand and in their own show art. And the last thing we're going to do is get in the way of that, because there's a lot of equity in that. But we want to make sure that we have a good wrapper so that it's very clear that this is coming from the Kennedy Center, as being presented by the Kennedy Center. And there's many, many things that are going to change. You'll see people's name tags. You'll see the ticket stock that some of you may already have with the new brand. You'll see merchandise in the shop. Feel free to pick some up on your way out, where we're able to call out the brand. And there's a lot of spaces where it's going to take us some time to catch up. We're not going to spend a whole bunch of money to make the whole thing change overnight. So we know there's going to be some of the old logo out there for quite some time. But we're working on it so that it is all moving forward in the direction that we're heading to match programmatically, institutionally, where we're heading as well. Okay, so that is the brand. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're going to change tack a little bit, because obviously the brand and the reach are two very big initiatives that we talked about. Now we want to talk programmatically about what's happening in the coming season, and I want to introduce my colleague, Nathan Diamond, who's going to talk about our education partnerships. Nathan.
Good evening. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the education programs at the Kennedy Center, and in particular, our efforts to reach students through schools, through arts education professionals, and through communities. Broadly, the education programs have touch points in all 50 states, in the District of Columbia, in Puerto Rico, and in 35 countries across the world. And in many communities across this country, we go much deeper in our investment through multiple programs in those communities. Annually, we reach over 1.4 million students, which I think is important to note that that is approximately the same number of visitors that we welcome to the Kennedy Center every year. So there really is a balance in the pillars of this institution between world-class art, the living memorial, and our powerful education programs. And through the Kennedy Center networks, we reach approximately 10 million people annually. In 2016, as a part of the Education Division's strategic planning and alignment, 5 programs that focus on improving student outcomes through high quality, equitable, accessible arts education were united in the development of the School and Community Programs cluster. Through these 5 programs, the Kennedy Center takes on a number of roles in education communities. Firstly, through our local programs, we act as a community partner. We are deeply committed to being an institution that exists in the district and in the DMV more broadly. And so, through the DC School and Community Initiatives, we partner long-term with 25 schools in the District of Columbia, and we also offer professional development and performance access to students both in the district and throughout the DMV. Through Changing Education Through the Arts, we partner closely with 6 schools in the DMV, developing them as arts integration demonstration schools. So the CETA program is a national leader in the development of arts integration. So not only do we have the 6 demonstration schools, but throughout the year, we offer workshops, seminars, and a summer conference that draws educators from around the country. We also have the opportunity to act as a conduit. We bring national programs and the artistic spotlight to the communities in this country that need it the most. The Turnaround Arts program is a direct-to-school program that supports emphasis on our most challenged schools in the nation. The Turnaround Arts program works to align arts strategies to schools' comprehensive goals so that we can make change on traditional measures of school improvement, so that we can see the ways that the arts impact traditional student success. We also act as a convener through Partners in Education, where we do around the nation in 102 sites the work that we do here locally. We build relationships between school districts and arts organizations with a focus on increasing and improving professional development for teachers, art teachers, and teaching artists in those communities. And we act as a facilitator, and I'll talk a little more about the Any Given Child program in a moment. Through the strategic planning and through some of this change, we've also looked to develop new focus areas. And so, reaching across our programs, we've developed a focus on a teaching artist strategy. All of these programs, all of the education programs in school and community, focus on strategic planning so that we can develop customized approaches to unique situations in each of the communities that we serve. Any Given Child is a collective impact model, and it really starts with the premise of the collective. As I mentioned, through this program, the Kennedy Center acts as a facilitator. So these programs in the 27 sites across the country are led by a community arts team that is made up of district representatives, city representatives, and representatives in the arts community, and then expands to welcome representatives from the business and philanthropic communities in those communities. And they work together to create a common vision for arts education in their community. It is a coordination of those groups where we ask them to put aside their individual agendas for the greater good of their community. And as I said, the Kennedy Center is a facilitator. We don't come in to make the decisions for these communities. We come in with best practices and the things that we have learned in doing this work and ask them to make the best decision for their own community and for their own children. We do root all of this in data, in supporting those communities to collect data that will help them to understand the landscape of their community and make the right decisions moving forward to create the most impact. As I mentioned, we're in 27 sites across the country with this program. We will announce, one site will be announced tomorrow, so look out for that, and the other one will be announced by the end of the year. That will be the 26th and 27th communities. And these are all across the country. We also, in making sure that we're learning from our own history, just completed an external evaluation of the program that allows us to see what this looks like in the field and help us to understand what the next steps of this program should be as we enter our 10th year. And in particular, there are a few things highlighted there. There seems to be a really important, from our communities, they are asking us to focus as the national organization to help them see that bigger picture, to use common tools and measurements, and to be a collector of data so that they can understand how they are doing in relation to the rest of the community. And it will allow us to paint a larger picture of the landscape of arts education in our country. It also asks us to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, primarily in local leadership, making sure that we're guiding our communities to create leadership that reflects the community that they're serving. As I mentioned, we also have a new focus on the teaching artist strategy. Those teaching artists are really the intersection between artistic programming and education, where they bring together really the practicing artist and the education community. And so we're working to develop a strategy to maximize their impact through KC education programs, primarily with the goal of activating citizen artistry and, again, increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the artists who represent the Kennedy Center. The school and community programs impact students locally and nationally through our work in schools, with arts education professionals, and in bringing local stakeholders together around a common vision for the young people in their community. This coming season, the Center's artistic programming will focus on narratives and experiences drawn from many of these communities in which we work. To introduce this powerful and unifying artistic initiative, known as the Human Journey, please join me in welcoming Robert Van Leer, Senior Vice President of Artistic Programming, to the stage. Thank you.
Good evening. As introduced, I am indeed Robert Van Leer, the Senior Vice President of Artistic Planning here at the Kennedy Center. And I'm going to tell you about something that really applies to us all. It's called the human journey, but what do we mean by that? I was just thinking as Nathan was speaking that between what Nathan was telling us about in the education division and all of those programs and what I'm going to talk about in artistic planning, you can also hear from my colleagues of the WNO and the NSO. Those are almost all of the programs here at the Kennedy Center. But what is it that can connect and combine us all? What are the universal stories? And what we're finding is that there are more and more artists of many kinds who are increasingly responding to those issues of our collective society. What are the things we care about for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities? And so those are some of the things we want to explore with the human journey. Before we move to the next slide, I didn't want to go without giving a mention to the production shown there. It's called the Barbershop Chronicles. It's coming into the theater programming in late November. I had the great privilege of seeing this production at the National Theatre in London over a year ago. This is a story told by an ensemble of 15 men of color who move dramatically, representing different characters from 6 different nations in Africa and the United Kingdom in barbershops. It's the conversations that they have with each other. It's the arguments that they have with each other. It's the issues that they explore together. And people say, well, that's someplace else. But I don't know about you, but I've seen these barbershops in Washington, D.C. I've seen them in Shaw and over different places where men come together to talk about the issues of today. So it's really about the universality, again, of these programs. But moving forward, what is the human journey? The human journey, to give credit, is one of the core ethoses of National Geographic, which is one of our partners. You can see there on the slide. But what is it? It's a season-long theme to highlight the work inspired by artists responding to those social issues. Why are we doing it? Because it helps us to tell those creative stories and to underscore the connections in all of our lives. Who? Well, it's going to work across the entire Kennedy Center, our partners, our communities, including programming, education, NSO, WNO, and so much more. But we're also partnering with these 2 titans here in DC, National Geographic, which is based here in this city, and also the National Gallery, in terms of bringing in other areas that we can explore these shared themes and share those stories with you. So how are we going to do that? Well, we put on programs, and we have some 30-plus programs that we've chosen out of all of the rest to really look at that broad horizontal theme that we're going to be exploring. And we've chosen certain areas to focus our conversations. You can see them there. We're going to talk about migration. Who in this room does not have some story about you and your family moving, your parents moving, some change that happened in your life, you chose to move or you needed to move, and how that affected your situation? Exploration. Summer of next year is going to be the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. Now, those of you who know your Kennedy history know that he said, we will go to the moon in this decade, and we did in 1969. So we're going to celebrate the human need to go forward and explore. Identity. How do we define ourselves, our relationship to our families and our communities? And then resilience. This is one that really came very powerfully from National Geographic and was also supported by our work in Sound Health with the National Institute of Health. How are we as individuals, our families, our health, our societies, how are we resilient? How do we respond to the pressures and challenges of modern life? So that gives us a little bit of a spine for exploring these stories together. But in many ways, it's going to be through the individual creatives and artists themselves. So, for example, we're making a series of 7 films across the season to highlight individual stories of artists, how their own personal journeys, and how that is influenced the work that they are doing going forward. And we're going to use all of the portals. Kevin talked about the wonderful new branding. We're going to use marketing and press, the social media, partnerships, presentations, talks and panels, working with other people from across our society to illuminate these issues and talk about their relevance for today. But I'm just going to quickly now move to a couple of highlighted things as representative of this program, and then to be joined by colleagues to talk about some of their programs. Byhalia, Mississippi. In June of 2019, the Kennedy Center production, and we are going to produce this ourselves here at the Kennedy Center, of Evan Linder's uncompromising exploration of race, family, and betrayal in the American South. This is a Jefferson Award winner in 2016 for a new work. This is taking it right down to the raw, inside family story that relates to so many of the tensions in our communities today. So that's a wonderful thing, and we're really excited about this because the Kennedy Center is returning in a significant way with Byhalia, but also with Broadway Center Stage, which you saw in that sizzle reel we had at the top, in terms of producing work here at the Kennedy Center and doing that with partners across the country. Another piece I wanted to highlight is Two Wings. And it's very important to us because it is not only something that is being imagined by our artistic director for jazz, Jason Moran, and his wife, Alicia Hall Moran, but it's also, again, a very American story, but with a universal element to us. This is a compelling new concert experience that examines the major demographic shift known as the Great Migration, when millions of citizens moved from the South to the North towards the great city centers of developing opportunity in Detroit and Chicago and New York and other places across the country, and the worlds and sounds and cultural expressions that they shared in order to carry them forward and to maintain their own connections. So that's an exciting part of next year. It'll feature vocalist Smokey Norfolk and the Amani Winds Quintet to join them for music, spoken word, visual media, and more. So that's just 2 examples of the many different programs we'll have across the art forms to give you an insight and to welcome you in to talk about these issues that are common to us all. So now I'm going to invite up here to the platform colleagues to talk about programs from the National Symphony Orchestra and then the WNO.
Thank you, Robert. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gary Ginsling. I am the Executive Director of the National Symphony. I thought I would begin this evening by echoing Deborah's words of thanks to each and every one of you for your generous support of the Kennedy Center. I know I speak on behalf of the National Symphony musicians, our board of directors, and our staff in saying thank you. We are so grateful for all that you do, and we couldn't do what we do without your generous support. One of the things that we do that we're absolutely committed to is bringing new works to life, and the NSO has a long history of commissioning and bringing new orchestral works to life. In fact, this season when John Andrea returns in December, we will be performing newly commissioned work by the Kennedy Center's composer in residence, Mason Bates. But the work I want to talk to you about this evening is a work that we are commissioning and we will be performing in the spring as part of the Human Journey. And that will be on March 30th, 2019, when we perform the world premiere of a work co-commissioned by the NSO and National Geographic Society by Russian-American composer Lara Auerbach entitled Arctica. Arctica is essentially a symphonic journey to the Arctic. Lara actually visited the Arctic along with National Geographic explorer-in-residence, marine ecologist, and global conservationist Dr. Enrique Sala. And you heard Robert talk that one of the pillars of Human Journey is exploration. Well, this is a work that actually was formed literally by exploration, exploring the Arctic. Lara and Dr. Sala explored and collected stories, images, and sounds from their journey and put it together into a major new work for orchestra. This is a work that will feature solo piano, orchestra, chorus, with the images projected above the orchestra. Now, I mentioned that I called Lyra a composer, but I think that really actually does not do her justice. She is also a concert pianist. She'll play the piano part in this performance. She is a poet, and she's also a visual artist. She is one of truly the most creative voices working today. She has composed over 100 works for orchestra, opera, ballet, chamber, and choral music, 8 string quartets performed by some of the world's leading quartets, like the Ying Quartet and the Tokyo String Quartet. Works for orchestra performed by the world's leading conductors, from Andris Nelsons to Osmo Vanska to Christoph Eschenbach. Her ballets have been staged all over the world, including Lincoln Center, San Francisco Ballet, and the Netherlands Dance Theater. And let's not forget her contributions to literature, painting, and sculpture. She has published 3 books of poetry in Russian, only 1 in English. She has recently had a solo exhibition of her visual work on display in Norway. Truly a remarkable artist, and the NSO is so grateful to be collaborating with Lyra Auerbach on this major, major work. The piece will be conducted by another talented young artist, Teddy Abrams, the American conductor who serves as the music director of the Louisville Orchestra. He has transformed that ensemble, and we are delighted he'll be making his NSO debut with this performance. We are very excited to be centrally involved in the creation of what we hope and anticipate will be a major new orchestral work exploring the natural beauty and fragility of the Arctic. So much so that we have recently confirmed that an orchestra representing each member country of the Arctic Council has committed to serve as a co-commissioner for this important project, including orchestras from Canada, Russia, Finland, Norway, Iceland, Denmark, and Sweden. Another indication of the importance of this work. So please join us on March 30th, 2019, when the NSO brings this amazing new work to life. And now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Tim.
Gary, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. And I'd like to echo my colleagues in saying thank you for your partnership and generosity. I am just about at the 4-month mark on the job as Washington National Opera's new general director. It is a privilege to be here, and I find the experience of working at the Kennedy Center endlessly inspiring. I'm very grateful to Deborah Rutter for hiring me, and also to the Washington National Opera Board of Trustees, led by our chair, Ellen Barrelson, who's here tonight. I'm also grateful to my friend, collaborator, and great partner, Francesca Zambello, our artistic director, who is one of the great opera artists of the world, and is not here tonight because she's abroad directing Norma. Let's see, this season we have beloved classics from the Italian, French, and Russian traditions, but our contribution to the human journey is an American work, which won the Pulitzer Prize not long ago by Kevin Putz and Mark Campbell. We are in a golden age, actually, of new American opera in this country. And no work has been more beloved and popular than Silent Night, which tells the true and moving story of the 1914 Christmas Eve truce during the First World War. And this was on a battlefield near Belgium, just as the horror of the war was really coming into focus. And soldiers in trenches on the Scottish, German, and French sides on Christmas Eve suddenly hear each other singing back and forth across no man's land. And this is one of the most catastrophic moments in human history, but it was the sound of each other's voices that caused the soldiers on opposite sides to hear humanity in one another. And an unlikely ceasefire broke out, resulting in soldiers coming up out of the trenches, singing together, sharing their stashes of food and drink, and even playing a famous soccer game on the battlefield. To me, the story has extraordinary power because as an opera person, I have always believed that the human voice raised in song is the sound of our humanity. It is the sound of what is best in us. And some of you know how this story ends. The soldiers had to be, once the fighting resumed, the soldiers had to be moved back from the front because after this experience of singing together and knowing each other, they were reluctant anymore to do their jobs, which was to kill one another. Performances of Silent Night all over the country have been especially meaningful to members of our armed forces and veterans who have been moved by the opera's depiction of war and the relationships among those who are asked to fight it. Performances of Silent Night, I'm happy to tell you, are, by the way, this opens on November 10th, which is the eve of the 100th anniversary of the armistice that ended the First World War. And our performances are selling out. But we are holding in reserve free tickets that are specially underwritten that are being offered to members of the military, and we're partnering with Blue Star Families, the U.S. Naval Academy, and Joint Base Andrews, among other partners, to spread the word. The opera ends very poignantly, and one of the most poignant images, actually, is the curtain call, when the costumes, the soldiers in all their different uniforms, are together again in common cause. It's a very moving image. And to celebrate the eve of the armistice, on opening night, we're inviting, as one can only do at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., we're inviting ambassadors from World War I countries, as many as we can fit into the audience, so that that image of unity will be reflected also in the audience 100 years later. So I'd like to say thank you all for making these kinds of performances possible, and I invite you to join us for Silent Night and the whole Washington National Opera season. And now I turn it back to Robert Van Leer. Thank you.
So that gives you a small representative taste of the programs and the ideas that we'll be exploring through the human journey in the 1819 season. If you want to see the whole program, please go to our website. There is a special page for the human journey, which will tell you more about those presentations. So finally, it comes to me to tell you a little bit about a work for high school age students. It's called The Long Way Down. It's co-commissioned and co-produced by our Theater for Young Audiences team here within the center. Connected with the human journey, the department has commissioned this work using the text of Jason Reynolds' newest book, Long Way Down. It received the Newbery Honor and Coretta Scott King Honor, among many, many others. Long Way Down, premiering this Saturday, so please come and share with us, is a story of a 15-year-old boy contemplating retaliation for his brother Sean's murder. Actor Justin Weeks, who plays Will in this wonderful production, is here to share a piece from this upcoming performance. Please welcome Justin to the stage. Thank you.
L stood for loser. When me and Sean were kids, we would get on an empty elevator and wait for someone to get on and push L. And when they did, we would giggle because they were the loser. And me and Sean were the winners on a funny and victorious ride down to the lobby. A guy got on the elevator. Definitely older than me, but not old. Medium brown skin, gold links dangling around his neck like magic rope. Checked to make sure the L button was lit. I wonder if he knew in me and Sean's world I'd already chosen to be a loser. It's uncomfortable when you feel like someone is looking at you, but only when you're not looking. I've seen girls waiting at the bus stop make men pitiful pieces of putty, curling back, straining, stretching every muscle just to get a glimpse of what Sean and a lot of men around here call the world. But there were no women on this elevator, but he kept checking anyway, not knowing that if he kept checking anyway, he'd get a world of trouble. Do I know you? The man smiled, adjusted the chains around his neck, looked me dead in the eye, straight in the face. When you don't recognize me? Nah, not really. The man smiled wide, jagged mouth, sharp and shark-like. Turned around so I could see the back of his t-shirt. A silk screen photo, him squatting low, middle fingers in the air, and a smile made of triangles. Rest in peace, Buck. You'll be missed forever. My stomach jumped into my chest, or my chest fell into my stomach, or both. I knew him. Buck? I stumbled backwards. Couldn't be. Ain't that what to say? But I thought you thought I was dead. Straight up. I rubbed my eyes, tripping. I'd never smoked, nothing like that. You know, don't know high life. Don't know bad trips. Don't know dead man supposed to be talking to me, though. Yeah, I did. I responded, hoping he'd come back with, I'm not dead, or I've faked my death, or something like that. I am. And I know what you're thinking, that I was scared to death, but no need to be afraid. I've known Buck since I was a kid. The only big brother Sean ever had. Now, Sean knew Buck better than I did. Knew Buck longer than we known our dad. I take it back, I was scared. What if he had come to take me, to get me to go with him? What if he had come to catch my breath? Anagram number 1, alive equals avail. So catching my breath, I asked, so why are you here? Please don't say you've come to take me, please. I came to check on my gun. My response. Your tale is showing. Nickname, Peace, a biscuit, a heater, a gat, a hammer, a tool for rule number 3. I put my hand behind my back, feeling the imprint of the piece like another piece of me, an extra vertebra. Now I remember when I gave that thing to Sean, when he was about your age. I taught him how to use it, taught him the rules, made him promise to put it someplace you couldn't get it. Yeah, well, I got it, and I'm gonna need it. Sean was killed last night. Followed him home from the store, caught him slipping, gave him 2 to the chest right outside our building. And then the tape gets put up that says, do not cross, and there's nothing left to do but go home. The tape lets people know that this is a murder scene, as if we didn't already know that. The crowd backs its way into blocks and down buildings. Sean was zipped into a bag and rolled away. His blood added to the pavement galaxy of bubblegum stars. The tape framed it like it was art, and the next day kids would play mummy with it. But I know it was Riggs and the Dark Sons. I know it was them. Had to be. Buck folded his arms. I see. So, what you about to do? I'm about to do what I gotta do. What you would have done. Follow the rules. The rules. Number 1, crying. Don't. No matter what, don't. Number 2, snitching. Don't. No matter what, don't. Number 3, revenge. If someone you love gets killed, find the person who killed them and kill them. The invention of the rules ain't come from my brother, his friends, our dad, our uncle, the guys on the corner, the hustlers and the shooters, and definitely not from me. Another thing about the rules, they weren't meant to be broken. They were meant for the broken to follow. Thank you.
How am I supposed to talk now? So I told you I don't have any favorites, but I will tell you that my life has changed in the biggest way by going to the Family Theater. So I challenge you, this is this year's challenge. Last year I challenged you to go to Direct Current. This year I challenge you to go to the Family Theater, because I believe that our education team and the people in performances for young audiences are doing extraordinary work. And in one short hour, you will have a whole new perspective on the world. We saw a little bit here now, and it will open next week. He's extraordinary. And I'm not just saying he's extraordinary and nothing else happens, or that it happens all the time, but the work that we are doing at the Kennedy Center for young people is like nothing I've ever seen, and I've been going to shows for a long time. So I encourage you to look at it, because we have many of them during the week for school groups, but we also always have them on the weekend as well. Last weekend we had a really great one, American Revolution, and now we're doing this starting next week. So I really encourage you to look at it. You don't have to be 8 or 3 or 12 or bring a kid to come. You can come on your own. I always go, so please join me. Little moment there. I have really great colleagues, and you've gotten to know a few of them over a period of time, and we'll have some more for you next year. But I just want to say thank you to all my colleagues for everything that you've done. And I really hope you go on the human journey with us by coming to 1, 2, 10, however many shows you come to. You will be having a part of the human journey, because every single show is exactly that. And I'm looking forward to, because on Saturday I'm going to see this piece, and then I'm going to go see the San Francisco Ballet, and earlier in the week I'm going to hear the National Symphony Orchestra and go to see Little Shop of Horror. So, you know, this is the only place in the world that you can do all of that. But you help make that possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. One thing before I turn to the questions, which is that I really hope that you have enough time that you can come over to the roof terrace and celebrate with us and have us say thank you directly. All of our development team are here to say thank you to you directly. And most importantly, we have a surprise that literally I think only 3 other people have seen and experienced. I saw a screenshot from China. But you will have a sneak preview of something that has not been shown to anybody yet. So please, please, please come to the Roof Terrace restaurant for a little glass of bubbly and a surprise. So here, that's the end of our prepared remarks. I'm going to go to some questions. And I got a couple of them in advance, and Robert answered one of them, so thank you. But I'm going to answer a couple of things in advance while they get the rest of them prepared, and they'll bring them back out. So thank you, Robert. One question was about the balance of theater programming, and will we be doing more producing? We're really thrilled, of course, with the new Broadway Center stage. We're going to be doing more readings, and we're slowly getting back into the producing world. It is just as opera and producing brand new opera and the orchestra world, it's about finding the right partnerships to do this work, and knowing that what you're going to do is having a life past what you do here in your original performances, and or making the economics work in those. And so you are making that work because our Broadway Center stage is phenomenally successful. And we'll be doing that now then also with plays. So yes, we are venturing back into the theater producing world as well. The other one, I know it's really questioned, but many of you have asked about that big thing that took over the summer here, the pricing and the ticket policies and everything for Hamilton. And so I really wanted to bring that up now. And I'll tell you that the bottom line is that we had a couple of choices. One is that if we brought Hamilton, it meant that the National Cultural Center would be hosting this national phenomenon. but that it would require that the ticket prices and the policies would be different from what you, our dedicated patrons, have experienced with us in the past. And it was, for me, really important to have Hamilton here and to address those issues and to put up with some of the things that we just do differently normally in order to welcome this amazing piece here to the center. So I chose that as opposed to letting it go somewhere else. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. I hope that you did get to see the show one way or the other. I know that our team did everything possible to address that, and along the way we had moments of frustration, and we learned a lot, and I apologize for the time that it took, but I hope you enjoyed the show if you got to see it. And the good news is that Kevin has told me that we're going to have a new website a year from now, and that all those problems are going to go away. Right, Kevin? So let me just say, I know that there have been other problems on sale days. When you have those problems, do not just get frustrated and hang up. Please either send me an email, send me a note, because one problem that we had recently, I uncovered it, I heard about it, and I went to our IT people, and they uncovered a problem that they hadn't found previously, and it was really only because a patron came to me and said, this is exactly what happened. So your engagement with us is so really, really important, and I say thank you for that. And thank you for being part of the family, because we do our job better because we're in conversation with you. That dynamic relationship is really, really important. And so are there other questions that you were going to bring to me or comments? I saw that there were a few comments along the way too. They're in order. Okay, this is an interesting one. How can you improve attendance? You already saw that I was lying, that it's not 84%, it's 82% capacity utilization. And I will tell you that that's pretty fantastic. Now, there are evenings where we have less, and then there are evenings when we have more. And it's really important for us to increase attendance across the board so that it is for all of the different art forms. What's really interesting is that we had a completely sold out night for La Traviata last Friday. It was with the Young Opera cast, the Domingo K. Fritz Young Opera singers, and it was for a lot of young people at a really discounted ticket price because we were wanting new young audience members. So we're constantly trying new things and maybe learning from some of that about what to do. So in fact, we've changed some ticket pricing policies. We've also changed our policy for student tickets because we want to build the habit, the lifelong habit of coming to the theater to see whatever it is. So tell those young people in your life, whoever they are and however they're related to you, that there are student tickets available, as many that we possibly can have, so that we can build that habit. So that's really important. It's also about ensuring that you're having a great time when you're here. And you know, the culture of service is really important here, because if it was really hard to buy a ticket, or you had a hard time getting here, or you didn't feel comfortable when you were here, no matter how great the show was, you got that tinge of, there's that other stuff. So culture of service is really important. We're constantly working on it. Again, when you hear good things or experience good things as well as things that we could do better, please let us know, because we want you to have a fantastic experience here all the time. So going further on these questions, it was, we know that you do more programming, but we don't want to take away from the traditional. And I want to be really clear with you that in fact, we're not taking away any programming. In fact, one of the biggest issues, if you ask me what the biggest question that Deborah Rutter grapples with, is how much is too much? Are we doing too much here at the center? What should we do? What's the balance of all the programming? But just because we've added programming in other genres does not mean that we've taken it away. The NSO is doing just as much programming as they have been doing. They still have 21 weeks of classical concerts. They still do lots of education programs. And the same is true for the opera as well. In fact, we've got some exciting new plans for the opera for coming seasons. One of the important aspects of it is about our digital stage. I hope that you all get to look at and see and experience the digital stage. We work really hard at having something really new and different and interesting every single day to draw people in. And what's been great with the Passport to Travel that I've had this year is the feedback that I've had that people have been watching what the Kennedy Center is doing really around the world. I was literally in Tasmania, which turns out to be a really beautiful spiritual place. Who knew? And somebody there said, oh yeah, I was watching Millennium Stage on your website because a friend of mine was performing on that stage. So that is a big piece of our program and our attempts to grow audiences. Wow, here's a good one. Will the Kennedy Center emphasize events that focus on local culture, such as go-go or punk music? Meg, that is a great idea. And we do have a really good, strong ecosystem, creative ecosystem with our local artists here. But I think this is exactly the kind of stuff that we can do in the Reach. So thank you for that. So here's one about late night snack and beverage. This is actually something that is near and dear to all of our hearts because none of us want to get in the car and drive somewhere to have dinner with an artist. And we have great parties after the opera and some of the other programs. The key is, if we build it, will you come? So there you heard it. Where's Ellery? We are working with RA, and we're looking at ways in which we can add more on the main level and then to try and encourage you even more to go up to the Roof Terrace restaurant. And if there are enough people who are interested in doing it, we'll be able to do more of it. Absolutely, the Reach is going to be our future party place. So this is a big piece of what we want to do. There are so many more initiatives that we're working on, but they're just a little too early to share with you. But today, I saw some proposed ideas of other food service options around the building that are really cool. But it's going to take us a little bit of time. We've got to open that place down there first. Okay. Will there be a future plan? Did this come from you, Tim? To update and renovate the Opera House seating so that every seat is equipped with a super title machine. I'm supposed to have the answers to these questions. You know, I do love that. They have it at the Metropolitan Opera, as many of you know, and it is really great because if you want to watch it or you want to see it in a different language, it's really cool. It's not inexpensive. So the next time we need to fix the seating in the Opera House, we'll work on that. So the more you sit in the Opera House seat, the sooner we have to renovate it. So you can help. Okay, the final one is one that I actually used with the staff recently, but it responds to this question of the service culture. I am a big believer that it's the total experience, that the art is at the center of it, but it's the total experience. And we are working daily to improve the way we do it, and learn to remember that we are here in a community, and a community means that we are all sharing this planet together, and it's a better place when you smile at one another, and that there are fewer rules, and that we can really take care of you. So this culture of service is really important to us. I think our development team epitomize it. We have a fantastic individuals who are so responsive to you as donors, but also to all of our patrons. But I have to tell you, one of the very nicest stories I heard about recently was not in the development department, but was in the accessibility department. And I want to tell you this story because it's a feel-good and a good way for us to close this meeting. So it was Father's Day. We were, this has to do with Hamilton, and it is about a patron who won the Hamilton lottery, so that's a good thing, and he wanted to bring his daughter for Father's Day, But he was really concerned because she has hearing loss, and this is such a fast pace that we who are full hearing people have sometimes a hard time keeping up with Hamilton. He called our accessibility office, and within 24 hours, they gave him a great experience because they set up captioning on an iPad, met them at the door, and gave them the iPad so that she could experience it. So here's the note that he wrote to us. We just arrived home from the show, and I wanted to drop you a quick note of thanks. We very much appreciate all of your assistance today and throughout the evening. This was my daughter's first visit to the Kennedy Center, and your attentiveness is just one example of what makes the overall experience in your venue so special. Even though my daughter wears hearing aids, she still misses about 10 to 15% of all spoken words. She told me how it was really cool that she could see all the words exactly when they were singing them on the screen. We can't wait to come back again very soon. Many thanks to you and the whole staff at Inaccessibility. So this is who we are, and this is who we are. Those are the things that happen here at the center all the time. We don't always know all about them. And that's what you help us be able to deliver. So I'm going to close just again by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for being here for so long and sharing this evening with us. Join us for a drink in the Roof Terrace restaurant. Thank you.